Are you thinking about writing a book? Well, I have exactly the group for you. You need Shine Press in your life. They have a free 30-minute consultation that answers your questions and shows you what it would look like to become a Shine Press author. They're illuminating stories and empowering authors. Go to shine-press.com to learn more.
Welcome to Productive Joy with Dr. Christie, where fun meets action.
Hi, friends. Welcome to Productive Joy. It is going to be a wonderful, wonderful experience again today. And I'm so excited to be here with my new friend. But before I introduce her to you, I would love for you to follow this podcast because, guys, you're not going to know that it even exists if you don't follow. And then you can't share it and you don't meet brilliant people like Najat. So I need you to be smart enough to go click. That will make a big difference for me and for you because I'm really meeting some brilliant people. And today is absolutely no exception. So we have with us today Nejat Abdurahman. And she is a lot of things. She is an author. She is a speaker. She is a coach. She also loves to be outside, hiking specifically. She is a learner, lifelong, always reading. I would call her an avid reader. And she's also a travel enthusiast. And when I asked her favorite place so far, it's Spain. And today she's a guest on Productive Joy. So welcome, Najat, to Productive Joy.
Thank you for having me. So glad to be here.
Yeah, this is going to be fun, I promise. And it'll be fairly painless. We're going to try to keep it that way for sure. But we have to convince people to listen. So what would you say in like 30 seconds or less that would make people really, really want to hear the rest of the story?
Join us for this conversation. If you've been in the podcast, you know how engaging it is. It's going to be flow. We're going to talk about leadership, productivity, and just having joy doing it.
Okay, well, that's a perfect sale for me. It works for me for sure. So, Najat, tell us a little bit about your story because I know you're an author. I know you have a fabulous book that really helps. It's The Art of Managing Up, which I appreciate a whole lot. And we're going to talk about that. But what got you here, right? Like, so you didn't come out of the womb and say, you know what, I'm going to write a leadership book and that leadership book is going to help us manage up. What got you to this point? And you can start wherever you want.
Oh my gosh, thank you for asking me this question. It started back in actually during the pandemic.
Okay.
2020. I was working at a company as a corporate trainer, but I think the pandemic had everyone reflect on questions. It affected our lives, changed everything that we do. And despite the tragedies that we've all had, I think one thing that it did to me is it really made me reflect and ask hard questions to myself that I never did. I was really shook to my core that everything changed. Like, oh my gosh, everything is very different from the way we know it. We're stuck at home. And what it did was it really made me ask, what if this was the end of it all? What if it was the end of this world? What would I have regretted not doing? And I really started like reflecting on my life and said, what are the things that I said I would do, but I'm just not doing, that I'm pushing? Just waiting for the right time. You know, the right time doesn't come. You just gotta go start.
I'll do it when, right?
Exactly. We always have a reason, whether that's perfection or not. So for me, one of the things that I did was quit my full-time job. And I've been with this company for 9 years. I loved what I did. I love training people. But I quit my job and started my own company.
Right.
And almost like, it was almost like, you know what? It's risky, but it's something that I've been wanting to do. It's something that I'm truly passionate about. And I train people, but in my experience, I've learned that if you truly want to make an impact in an organization, the leaders would take the organization places. The leaders are the ones that would create the environment, the systems. If everyone at work is going to be productive and happy and have fun, it's the leaders that create that environment. So I said, you know what? Leadership development is something that I've been wanting to do. And I'm here. I'm going to take the risk. Go ahead and do it. Believe it or not, I actually went on skydiving before starting my own business. I'm going to do that. Something that I'm scared about, but to give me the courage to be comfortable being uncomfortable.
Wow.
You know, it's like you get to be very uncomfortable, but you enjoy the view. And I always have this mindset of learning, right? You are always learning. It's not the end of the world. So just go ahead, figure it out. there's a way to do that. The experience is worth it. You won't say, I wish I didn't do it. You will either earn or learn.
Oh, nice.
Yeah.
I like that.
You'll either succeed, or if not, you learn something. And it's always better to look back and say, I'm so glad I did it, than to look back and say, what, why did I not do it?
Huh, yeah, that's very
And
true. That's
so,
so true.
yeah. So I said, you know what? I'm going to go ahead and start my own business. And of course, there's other things that I changed in my life too. But that was one of the things, I started my business and I sat down and wrote my why. Google document and said, okay, what's my intention for this business? Why do I want to do what I'm doing?
Yeah.
What are the things that I'm passionate about? What are the things that I think I have the skill to do? And what are the things that I'm willing to learn so I can be successful in this area? And then it's the rest is history. Because once you get into the actual, doing the trainings, talking about leadership, I've seen how we categorize leadership into leading other people, leading your direct reports. There's the self leadership aspect. And then, of course, there's leading organization, right? So there's this holistic approach to leading. But as you get down, and what I've noticed is with many leaders, all of the topics are interesting, right? All
Uh-huh.
of the topics are interesting. All of the topics are relevant. But what I've seen with most leaders is we focus so much on becoming the best leader we can be to our team members that we sometimes forget about leading the people around us and leading the people up. So, okay, leading down, which is great. You have to be a great leader. But how about leading across and also leading? So
Wow.
that was a topic that really came in all of the trainings that I do. It led into a lot of conversation with people, lots of questions. So then I started focusing on that topic more. And that's how I have the book.
Okay, well,
Long
that's
story,
exciting.
but I made it like kind of short.
Yeah, but you just said a whole bunch of things, and all of those things I think are things that those that are listening can relate to. So, one, you determined when the world shut down that you were going to take a big risk, and taking that big risk has given great reward, and you're doing amazing things that you genuinely love. But it hasn't been easy. I guarantee it wasn't like butterflies and bubbles, and immediately you had all the clients you
Absolutely
needed.
not. Absolutely not. No.
So, if we're talking to a group of people who, which we are, our listeners are people who want to break out of the mold and create that productive joy, what's one piece of advice that you would give people if they're getting ready to make this big shift? And what's one cautionary tale that you would bring up for them?
So, one thing that has been incredibly helpful to me is that thing that I shared with you, which is writing down my why
Yeah,
in actual document, because it was truly, truly passionate for me to really think, what is my intention? Why am I doing what I'm doing? Why am I starting this business? Right. And so when you have that passion for what you do on those days that it's very hard, what you're going to do is you're going to look back in that document and you're going to get more energy.
yeah, definitely.
So I would say reflect on that one because, like you said, it's not going to be easy. There's going to be days where you say, I can just give up, right?
Yeah,
And then when you look at the document, you're going to say, oh no, this is really
it's
important
too
to me.
important. I can't give up.
Too
I
important.
can't.
Yeah, it's too important. So I got to do it. Now, I'm talking about that from a perspective of why you're doing what I'm doing. I love doing leadership development, right? I love developing leaders. Now, I'm doing it on my own with my own company. But if I were to train leaders, even if it's with other companies, I wouldn't mind. So to me, giving up on the passion is the fact that it's not necessarily just being on my own
Yeah.
or having my own business. To me, what matters is the fact that I'm creating an impact. I'm helping organizations that are already creating positive impact by helping them develop their leaders, right?
Yeah.
But if
So wait,
someone
let
is,
me stop you there for just a second because I think you said something really powerful we need to hold on to. So your advice is that not only do you know your why well, but that your why is bigger than you, right? Like it cannot just be about, well, I want to do this because I think it might be fun or great or lovely or whatever. how is it going to impact others in a positive way? So I really appreciate that. Okay. So sorry. And
And
I wanted to make sure people caught that because I think that's really important. And then your cautionary tale, what would you tell people go, oh gosh, avoid this?
yeah, so I actually want to
Yeah.
kind of like add to what you said. I love
Mhm.
that. I think anytime like our why and the thing that we do when it's a purpose, it actually lets us soar. The thing is, if we're just thinking about ourselves, the ego always gets on the way.
Yeah. Yeah.
You're always going to think, who am I to do this? And I'm telling you this because in the leadership development that I do for most of the leaders, when I see the thing that's holding them back from advancing, it's always, oh, I don't have that much experience, or it's imposter syndrome, or it's
Mm.
the thinking, do I even have like the right experience, the right this? Anytime we're thinking about things that are holding us back, it's because we're thinking about ourselves.
Oh, yeah. Very
And
true.
so I think when you have a purpose and a bigger thing that you're working towards, you forget yourself. And that is like a healthy, but also a really great way to like to advance. The other thing that I would say for people to really pay attention to is starting your own business, and especially if that's that, right? If starting your own business is not, I mean, you got to do it. It's not just like, oh, I'm passionate about this thing. I got to do it. You got to look at the numbers.
And be
Are you,
smart, like have a
yeah.
plan.
Yeah, you have to have a plan. And like some people start their own business, they do the thing on the side to make sure that it's generating enough of an income. And then they make the jump, right? Or some people might have a reserve of income that they know for sure they're going to have until their business is ready to make the income. So that's the one thing that I would say. It's have to be a legit, good, logical financial decision as well. In addition to the emotional and of course the joy and passion of what you want to do. But at the end of the day, passion may not necessarily pay out
Right.
for
I was gonna say it doesn't pay rent. It doesn't. Yeah.
doesn't
You
pay
don't be
rent,
an idiot.
doesn't pay mortgage. Yeah.
What I just heard you say, Najat, is don't be an idiot.
Well,
Save
I guess
space without you said it much more beautifully than I just did. But I think the reality of what you're saying is so true, right? You can lead with your heart, you can have your why be very personal, and it needs to impact others. And it needs to pay the bills. Like if this is what you're going to do with your life, but I think there's another and there is you also have to define success because success for one might be different than somebody else. Like I want to make, 7 figures with my business in the first year versus I want to make $100,000, right?
yeah,
And I want to have work-life balance so I can spend time with my kids. That's
exactly.
success.
Exactly. It always has its pros and cons. Like you get the freedom, like you said, you really have to define what is success for me.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Because sometimes, like, people think you're going to be free when you have your own business. And I love the fact that you have flexibility, but sometimes because it's your own, you might be working 24 hours. So you got to have those rules of like, okay, how do I define success? And is starting my own thing and working on this thing that I'm passionate about. If it's really making you focus just on one aspect of your life, and then it's going to lead to burnout or like too much focus to the extent that you're neglecting other aspects of your life, then where is it, right? So I think the term that I think people really need to pay attention to that we all is sustainability.
Yeah.
If you do something and it's amazing for now, but it's not going to be sustainable, then what's the point, right?
Oh, so true. So true.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
Well, that actually leads me to my favorite question because I feel like this is that what you've done is you've created for yourself some productive joy. But I need to know what your definition of productive joy is. So if you had to define it or describe it, how would you describe productive joy?
Oh, so productive joy to me, when it comes to like the actual work that I do, I find joy when I see, the leaders that I'm training have an aha moment. Maybe when I see that the work that I'm doing is creating an impact in the organization, in the leaders. And like I told you, especially because I am back like at my company, I focus specifically on organizations that are creating positive impact in the society. So for example, we're training fellow women in medicine, fellow leadership that we're training. So training them and then seeing them truly advance in their career, becoming like an excellent leaders and creating the impact in the world, that's really brings joy to myself. And then in terms of like as a person, I think a productive joy to me is when I know that my work I want to be productive, but I'm doing it in a balanced way that I'm not neglecting myself, my family, or my time and well-being and all that. So when it's like really balanced, it's not really the productivity is not coming at the expense of something else. It's really like balance where I'm, waking up in the morning, having some time for myself, drinking my water, like I told you. Do that in the morning and enjoy my work, do the work and focused on it. And then after work, just play, right? Like have that free time where you're enjoying. So when the productivity is not coming at the expense of something else, to me, that's joy.
Ah,
I see the sustainability.
what a beautiful definition. And I think the clarity of that is beautiful, right? Like because the one can't outweigh the other. So I have a dear friend who on this podcast actually talked about we're juggling everything all the time, but some things are glass balls and some things are rubber balls, right? And we need
Yeah.
to protect those glass balls fiercely. And it's okay because a rubber ball will bounce. And I think that's ultimately what you just said. The productivity isn't at the expense of something else. I'm not having to sleep 4 hours a night and, work into the wee hours and never see my family so that I can be productive because ultimately that steals my joy.
Yeah. Yeah. No, you absolutely don't want to do that. If it's coming at the expense of something, like again, you'll do it for the time being, but then guess what? You'll burn out
Yeah.
and then you'll start focusing fully on your health then.
And it goes back to that
It
sustainable,
goes
right? Not
Yeah.
sustainable.
So I remember like when I stopped my work before starting my own company, I was like, okay, I just want to rest
Yeah.
for like 2, 3 weeks. I just want to rest, not do anything. And I'm just like, it was like an onion peel, like one layer of stress is gone and then the other. I'm like, wow, I did not know I needed this type of rest, right? So sometimes like it can accumulate and you're not even realizing. So I feel like we have to have like a set of weekly or something routine that you ensure you're doing. Like, of course, the basic things like getting your sleep, water, and health and exercise. But if we're doing it at the expense of that, I don't mean that we won't have like urgent things that one week or one day you're gonna skip your workout
Yeah.
or maybe sleep less hours. But if it's consistent, I don't
Not
know.
sustainable. It goes back to sustainability, Najat, and you made that very clear. And I think that's where I hope the listeners are catching on to what you're saying. If what you're doing is not sustainable, right? I'm doing it for a season. I mean, how often have we said that? If I can just get to spring break, if I can just get to this, if I can just get to that, but you can't live life that way. You've got to live life in the I love what I'm doing today. And I will love it again tomorrow. There are aspects of it that aren't my favorite, but I can keep doing this for life. That's pretty cool. So you've done that and you've shifted and you've written this book. And what I'm excited about with the book is it gives some very practical ways that people can manage up. So why don't you tell us what you mean when you say manage up and then what would I gain if I were to pick up your book and open to page 15? What am I going to walk away with as a leader?
So Harvard Business Review defines managing up as, being an employee that adding value to your boss and adding value to the organization, which is great. You want to add value to your boss, you want to add value to your organization. My experience personally working with many leaders and also organizations is that I don't think there's an employee just sitting there not wanting to add value. They're all think they're adding value, and then they have a meeting with your boss. They realize that none of that is recognized or appreciated or
Mm.
no, right? So there's this misalignment. And what I did was kind of like look at it from a holistic perspective. Okay, so you're adding value to your boss in your organization, but you want to make sure that you're also adding value to yourself so that it is sustainable. You don't add value and feel unappreciated. So you do that where it's like a win-win for you, for the organization, and for your boss. So the managing up concept is, and there's also studies, by the way, that show that being an effective leader to your direct subordinates is not enough. So McKinsey and Company, which is the global consulting firm, they did a study and they studied, leaders in marketing. They added that was their 360 data. And what they found was managing up was actually twice as important as being a great leader for your career success, 50% more important for the organizational success. So when people, when leaders, when professionals manage up, they benefit the organization, they benefit themselves by, they will move up in the career ladder. So I wrote this book and it basically defines what managing up is, which is kind of like basically what I told you. But it identifies like why do people not manage up then if it's important? And so I list the ways, few of the things that can get in the way,
Mm.
people effectively managing up. And then I have basically 5 insights that people can apply immediately so they can manage up effectively. So what to do. And that's why it's like a step-by-step guide. I do have an assessment that people take in the beginning. When they're reading the book, I have the assessment on the book, but I also have it on my website where you can see where you currently stand. Are you managing up or not?
Nice.
So yeah,
That's
that's
instant feedback. Well, and we didn't mention the second part of your title, which I really like, a step-by-step guide to help you become the CEO of your career, right?
yep.
So you're also owning the environment and the expectations and all of those things for yourself as well. I think there's power in that. So my definition of fun, believe it or not, because I do think that work should be fun, and I have a book titled "Make Work Fun So People Don't Quit." And the idea behind it is fun means people feel valued and appreciated, that they know they have a voice and they're allowed to use it, and that they're able to leverage their talents for the greater good. And that's what I'm hearing you say 100%, right?
Exactly. Oh my
So
God.
I think we'd be friends. Like that would not a problem. But I think what you're saying is, okay, yes, and that goes in both directions. And I think about my own, career and the people that I've worked for, the people that I've worked with, the people I've worked under, the people that I've governed, if you will. And in all of those instances, I think the first step is to value and appreciate people, that we have to make sure that they know that they matter before anything else. And I'm not sure that always happens from, here up. I think it often, I hope it often happens from here down, but sometimes we forget to say to our bosses, "You're doing a good job. I appreciate you. Thank you." Do you find that to be true that, in your research and with working with leaders, like how often do they shoot their boss a text that says, "Hey, I think you're doing a great job"?
That. I mean, recognizing and appreciating the hard work or how incredible of an impact they've made on you, like your boss specifically, maybe something, but like the appreciation not. And to add to what you were saying, the appreciation has to come from the leaders, right? That I have no doubt about. But sometimes the ability to showcase the value that you're adding has to come from the bottom up too.
Yeah. Oh,
That's what I'd say. It's like sometimes, well, let's agree. If we are in a great organization with a great leader who really wants to uplift their team and they have the full time and capacity to make sure that each person is appreciated, is recognized for the value they're adding, then, as an individual, you might not have to do much. But the reality is not that. Most bosses are extremely busy to analyze and see what exactly of an impact you're creating.
yeah.
And this is where, like sometimes we're told just do the hard work, whatever work you're doing, the results will show. But data results don't speak for themselves.
No. Mm-mm. And there's all kinds of qualitative data that goes along with the quantitative that you won't know unless somebody says it.
Exactly. And that's why I say, yeah, your boss can recognize you, but at the same time, you can be a proactive employee and showcase the value that you're adding because your boss is busy with his or her own, things that they're doing. So because you're busy, you can actually manage up so that you're making it easy for the boss to recognize the value that you're adding.
Smart. Smart.
And then, yeah, so it's all about you're the CEO of your career, see where you are, see where you want to get, and then create the right environment for you to get there. And
Yeah.
you know what? You can expect your boss to do it for you. And if you're lucky and if you have a great leader, they will do it for you. Like in every meeting, they will recognize for the things that you're doing. They will look at the data, but most people are busy, let's face it. And that's why we have this. You'll see a lot of people, and I've actually experienced with my clients, they will tell me they're doing an amazing job. They did this and that. They can really quantify everything they've done. They get to a meeting with their boss and they recognize that the new director role that they were expecting they're going to get was just given to a new hire from outside of the company. Like, wait, I thought I was ready for it. Or sometimes it's just like you thinking you're adding a lot of value and your boss, they don't really see
Yeah.
the value. This has happened to me personally, where you see something that you're adding, you think it's known, and then they're in a completely different page. And so what I say is this, like, can you take 100% ownership and be
Hmm.
like, this is my career. I'm not going to expect my boss to do that for me. I'm going to do it. Now, if you have a great boss, then great. But if not, you can really take the proactive measure of saying, am I creating a productive working relationship with my boss?
Well, and I think it's, yes, everything you just said was wonderful. And I think even if you have a great boss, why wouldn't you be advocating for yourself? Even if they see it, right? Like even if somebody tells you all the time, you're really doing a great job and I appreciate this, that, and the other. I think advocating for yourself does two things. It reminds you of your own worth, your
Mhm.
own skills. It keeps you thinking about, you know what, I have done some stuff. And
Yeah.
it allows that other person to maybe notice things that would go unnoticed, not because they meant to miss it, but because, like you said, they're busy or they're, just not seeing all of the big picture because that's not their work. So, okay, everything that you have said has been spot on, perfect, wonderful, something that we all need. How would somebody find you so that they can say, hey, I need you to come work with our leadership team to make these things happen in our organization?
The best way to find me is I'm active on LinkedIn, Najat Abdurahman. You can find me. And then my website, www.n-bac.com. On my website, you'll find information there. Just I don't do one-on-one with leadership. Like you said, I
Yeah.
do work with organizations. So we do an entire workshop for all of the leaders because it's also about creating that kind of culture of managing up.
Mhm.
You're almost like infusing entrepreneurship within your employees so that
Yeah.
they're actively managing up and showcasing their value and also making sure that their team is doing the same. So it's really amazing.
Yeah.
And yeah, when you have that, people feel empowered. People want to have autonomy to do the thing that they want to do, right? So to actively be CEOs of their career, see if their values and their strength is aligning with their current work.
Yeah.
Because if it doesn't, they can proactively say, okay, this is where I can contribute the most.
Yeah. And this is where I
It
need
really-
my whatever.
Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, so powerful, Najat. Thank you. Thank you for choosing to be unproductive joy, but also thank you for making that such a clear to do, right? Like it's an action on it's a call to action. Advocate for yourself in the workspace so that you are going to land where you want to land, right? This is not being done unto you. This is being done alongside you. Like I think about my own son, who is possibly one of the hardest working humans I know. But his current position and his current place of work, he's 24, just turned 24 on April 3rd, but he is not appreciated for what he's doing and is working very long hours. And because he's a manager, he has to be there when nobody else wants to be, including, 16 hours on Christmas Day kind of stuff. And so I think part of the issue isn't his bosses, it's him not making it clear to his bosses what he's doing, right? What value he's
Exactly.
bringing to the table,
Yeah.
and that simple shift, I think, is a really powerful one, not just for Jackson, but
Yeah.
for so many of us that
Ex-
are making a whole lot of assumptions that people see us and they don't.
Exactly. And the thing is, it's not even necessarily just about advocating for ourselves. When we're able to see it from our boss's perspective and say, okay, this is what I'm doing right now, but it's not appreciated, then the question becomes, okay, how can I align my goals with the goals of the organization
Yeah,
so that what I'm adding is also adding to the organization and it's aligned, that I don't do something that may not be that much impactful.
yeah. Well, I think what you just said too is important to remember. Maybe we're aiming at different targets. So
Exactly.
what is the target that I'm supposed to hit? What do you need from me? And how can I best
Exactly.
produce it? Instead of again assuming that you're doing all the stuff right and it
Exactly.
not being seen or heard or whatever. Oh, very
Yeah. Yeah. So kind of like aligning, and it's so interesting because even as an entrepreneur, right?
Yeah.
Even like you and I, maybe we have our own thing, but to really see it from the other side's perspective, what's the return on investment?
Yeah. Yeah.
Is what I'm adding value to the industry?
Yeah.
So that shift of saying, okay, I'm not appreciated. Maybe it's not that I haven't fully described or advocated for myself. Or if it is just that I'm doing this all of the hard work, but that's not an important work. Am I really aligning what I'm doing with what is going to add value to my boss, going to add
Yeah.
value to my organization? Because when you do that, you confirm that you're actually working on what matters.
Yeah.
If you work on what matters, guess what? You will be adding value. You'll be appreciated. The same thing that we said, it becomes sustainable because no, it doesn't break at some point. The employee doesn't fit or you don't get
Oh,
fired. So it's just like it's that
yep.
sustainability. Just like make it win-win because then that everyone benefits and becomes more sustainable.
Well, you just tied a beautiful bow on all the things that you said and brought us back to the idea that whatever we're doing needs to be sustainable.
Yeah.
And that for our listeners, if you're listening right now and you're thinking, yeah, nothing about what I'm doing right now is sustainable. I get up at 4 o'clock in the morning, I go to bed at 11 o'clock at night, and I am not restful when I'm asleep because I'm doing all of these things. Then are you busy for busy's sake, or are you creating productive joy? Let's figure out a way to make that into productive joy. Najat, you are delightful and you are doing beautiful things. And I am so glad that you chose to spend some time with productive joy. So, would you be willing to answer some rapid fire questions for me?
Sure.
Oh my gosh, are you excited? You're like, oh, geez.
Well,
Okay.
like, I don't know, but yeah, sure.
Okay. So, earlier I did tell you my definition of fun. And yes, that is a work definition of fun. But I just want to know, what is your definition of fun?
Fun is when you are not bothered by problems, but like actively seeing it as, okay, what can I do? So you're not really putting a lot of energy around the problems. Rather, you're seeing it from what can we do? What can we learn? What can we? So to me, it's just not being too much bogged down and having that positivity.
Yeah. Oh, I love it. And I'll almost call that freedom, right? Okay. How do you know that you are showing up as your authentic self?
How do I know if I'm showing up as my authentic self? If I'm speaking freely and just I'm not hiding parts of me or not I'm not hiding what I think. And I don't mean just share anything without being kind or but authentically just being myself. If I feel like I'm hiding any part of me or my thoughts, then I'm not bringing my whole self to
Mm,
that conversation or to that company or to that environment. So
I like that. That's great. Okay. How do you channel your best self on your worst days?
when I have worse days, I sometimes just pause and do one thing that I like. So it's interesting that you were mentioning earlier, like if you're really, waking up at 4 and extremely busy. I have this thing that I say, if you think you're too busy to just take a 10-minute break and enjoy your coffee. I love coffee. But if you enjoy tea or something, if you think you're too busy to sit down for 10 minutes and meditate, if you think you're too busy to sit down to stop work and go outside for a 10-minute walk, you're too busy not to do it. You're
Yeah.
like, you absolutely need. That's actually how you know. So
Yeah.
I stop what I'm doing and do something that I enjoy. It could be just a 10 minutes walk. It could be a 10 minutes of just opening a song that I love, or it could just be enjoying my coffee and calming myself down, saying it's all figure outable.
Figure outable. I like
And
that.
oh yeah, and then so you can figure it out. And I practice a lot of emotional intelligence. It's just the ability to just, and then you know what? Not every day is going to be productive.
No?
You just do the best you can for that day. Just do the best you can for that day because not everything's going to be like 100%. But at least you just take the positive step of just pausing and doing something you love. It gets you to that cycle of not like the things you don't like, but that's a positive step. And then just do, even if it's just one thing that you can do today to
I
be
love
okay.
that.
Don't
Thank
be hard on yourself. Don't be hard on yourself. That's the thing I say.
Well, we all have bad days, right? Or at least bad moments, and we need to push past them. That's perfect. Okay, last question. And this is going to be tough because you've said lots of really important things. But what's the one thing that you really want people to latch on to from our time together today?
It's kind of hard, but one thing I want to say is think of leadership from a holistic perspective. So leadership from leading yourself, leading the organization and leading, your team, and also from leading down, leading sideways and leading up. So that holistic approach of leadership, and think of sustainability. If you're adding a lot of value to your organization, but not to yourself, guess what? You're going to add value, but then at some point it's going to end. If you're adding value to yourself, but not to your organization, it's going to end at some point. But when you make it like a win win, and how can I make it sustainable? It really makes it beautifully continue and makes it lasting. So,
Love that. What a great answer. Well, thank you so much for your time today. I know you could have been doing a whole lot of other things, but you decided to spend a little time with our Productive Joy family, and we're forever grateful for that. So thank you. Thank you for sharing your brilliance on Productive Joy.
thank you so much for having me. And thank you for all of the listeners for taking the time to listen.
All right. Speaking of listeners, you've been given some very important calls to action, and I hope that you are going to take them, whether it's just to make your life a little more sustainable or to thoughtfully restructure so that you are leading up, sideways, and down, and making sure that you're taking care of the humans around you, including yourself. Whatever nugget of wisdom you take today, I want you to make sure that you figure out a way to turn fun into action.